Hey guys, welcome to another video with Coach Matt. Today we're going to be exploring how to win a king and queen versus king and pawns game. I've had a couple of questions about this over the course of, let's say, the last month or so, and I figured I'd do a video on it just to show you guys a nice way to get this position won. Let's get right into it. All right, so for a lot of people, this seems like an even match because we've got, let's say, the 8 pawns against the queen. And then if you do the calculation, you're like, okay, 8 pawns, that's 8 points versus the queen, that's 9 points. It's not that great difference. The truth is, this position is just completely winning for white if you use the queen properly. And the key point here that I want to emphasize is the double attack. The double attack is going to allow me to attack 2 unprotected pieces at the same time, which almost guarantees that I win one of them. And what ends up happening if white plays correctly, or it doesn't matter if it's white or black, whoever has the queen, if they play correctly, they end up gobbling up some pawns in a very quick space of time. And then the opposition is left with very few pawns, and the king just comes in and supports in the action. And it's actually fairly easy. So I think the way you guys should look at this is it's an instructional video on how to use the queen to finish off these endgame positions. And I think the most important one there is the double attack. So what is a double attack? Like we said, it's attacking 2 unprotected pieces at the same time. There's a number of them here in this position. First and foremost, let's look at queen d4, which looks pretty juicy. That attacks a7 and g7. Cool. Let's look at another one. Queen b1. It attacks, b7 and h7. How about another one? Queen a1. That attacks a7. It also attacks g7. Now, those are all successful double attacks. We're pretty happy with that. If I have to stop this and investigate another one that might be considered a double attack, but it's not very effective, for instance, queen g4. So queen g4, we attack the g7 pawn and we attack the d7 pawn. But the issue here is this pawn is not unprotected. It's not a target. I cannot take this pawn willingly. I'm just going to drop my queen, and that is just no good at all. So that we can't do. The thing is, they just defend the g7 pawn or make a plan somehow, and so it's not a successful double attack. So let's go back. Let's choose one. I think it's very much the same. Queen g4, queen h5. We attack f7 and h7, but again, we're not really attacking f7 because it's defended. So they just deal with h7, and there's no real material gain. We don't win anything. Let's go back to the drawing board here and let's go queen d4. Let's see how we can successfully win some pawns. So already black's got to be quite careful. I've seen this type of thing happen before where someone's like, oh, let me just go g6 to avoid them taking my pawn. And what ends up happening is then white can checkmate black right off the bat. You can see the king has no escape squares. He's been back row mated, checkmated on the back rank. No escape for the king. Unfortunate, very unfortunate. Of course, we're not going to do it that easily. So let's play f6 to try and shut this diagonal down. Of course, that allows me to take a7. One down. Boom. We're also threatening some back rank checks, but it's not going to be made because the king is going to have this flight square. Already a tough spot for black. This pawn is dropping. If you choose to play something like b5, then the c7 pawn is going to drop. So that's quite sketchy. Let's try and save the c pawn. So we save this pawn and drop this pawn at the same time. For the time being, black's kind of happy. He's defended. These are the only target squares right here. So let's say black fixes that temporarily. He's like, okay, cool. He's gonna start marching these pawns. The only way to really be competitive here is if the pawns can get further down the board. Remember, as the pawns get further down the board, they become more dangerous, they become more powerful because they start, let's say I could fly this pawn onto h4, then he's a couple squares away from becoming a queen, he's a couple squares away from promoting, he's all of a sudden a bit of a force to be reckoned with. So But like we said, he's quite a few squares away from getting that move in. Queen c8, again a double attack. We're attacking the king and the pawn at the same time. Technically, you might argue that this pawn is currently defended, but what I know is that this king has to move, and when the king moves, this pawn drops. There's not a great deal to think about here, as black doesn't really have any other options. He's got to play king f7, only move. Another pawn bites the dust. We can see this pawn is now on his own. The correct term there is isolated. This is an isolated pawn, and isolated pawns are a big weakness because, well, they sort of have no backup, nobody to help them. Let's see. So he runs the pawn, hoping to get to safety. Many ways to win this c5 pawn. Let's do a double attack, since we are trying to focus on our double attacks. It's checked. It's attacking the unprotected pawn at the same time. It looks like that pawn is dropping. There's just no way around it, really. The pawn is absolutely dropping. And where can we go? Let's go king g6, queen c5, attacking e7. And then e5. So currently, right now, we've scooped up 4 of black's 8 pawns. We are looking fantastic. Black's probably okay here because he suddenly realized all of his pawns are protected. Some by the king, some by pawns. But everybody is sort of defended currently. And this is the time where white should be like, okay, I'm going to bring the king in and try to cause a little bit of trouble. Remember, I'm bringing in an extra attacker now. H5 makes sense. So, again, this is sort of the best position that black's had. Queen c1. I'm actually meant to go queen c2 in this position. The plan was to target the king and sort of force him out the way. What we actually want here is we love for him to go king h6 so that I can go queen f5. And I can put a bit of pressure on this pawn. Maybe then you go king here, and then again I'd probably come a little bit further up the board with my king. I'd progress. Let's not make it that easy for us. Let's play f5. So that's what we wanted. Black says no, no, no. He's not going to allow that. He's going to try and make it a little bit more difficult. But now he's got some weaknesses here and no real pawns to help defend him. Let's start the progress. So we start our double attack. We've got to start attacking some of these juicy pawns. Suddenly they're all not protected, and there must be a tactic here somewhere. Queen d7, attacking the king, attacking f5. Let's go king f6 to defend some of these pawns. Queen d6, attacking the king, attacking the pawn. And suddenly this king has to move, and this pawn is dropping, which is fantastic news for us. Let's grab it. Okay, he needs to hold this. If he pushes, he drops this pawn. No good. Can't get away with that. That's not going to work. So let's go king g6, queen e6, check. Ooh, same kind of problem, really. Looks like this pawn on f5 is going to drop. And there's not a great deal he can do about it. Nothing, in fact. Same story. King h6 to defend the pawn. Queen f6. King h7. Queen g5. All right, this is sort of a sad state of affairs. The black pawns are all just dropping, and he didn't actually make too much progress here in this position. Queen takes h4. All right, so we're in a position that we all know too well. I'm hoping that you guys are able to win this position from here. You just got to ask yourself, what method do I have to use again? What was the coach telling me? Oh, yes. The L-shaped method. That's a very important one. As long as you remember that, you can take a second, stop and think, and just be like, what am I supposed to do here? Oh, yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to get an L shape in this position. If I'm able to do that, I should be able to successfully convert this to a win nice and easy. So here we have it in case some of you have got the holiday fever and you just can't quite remember the method. There's the L, the capital L, and this we use to force the king to the corner, or at least to the edge of the board where we'll be able to checkmate him. It's a nice, simple method. So once the L shape has been achieved, we simply just follow the king. King f8, queen g6, e7, f5, d6, e4. See, all I'm doing is following. No fanciness. King c7, Queen d5, king c8, queen d6. He goes down, I go down. He goes right or left, I go right or left. So king b7, queen c5, king a6, queen b4. Should I follow? Absolutely not. I should not follow. We don't follow him into the corner. If you play queen b6 here, it will be stalemate. The king will not be able to move to any of these three squares. It'll therefore be stalemate. Guys, remember the difference between checkmate and stalemate. Most important to understand. Remember, stalemate means the king, or in fact, they have no moves in total. It's not just about the king. It means they have no moves. Most of the time, it happens when there's just a king because there are no other pieces to move. If black had a pawn sitting here, he couldn't be stalemated because he would always be able to still move that pawn, unless it was, of course, blocked in by a white piece, and then he was unable to move that. So anyway, get back to the checkmate. Once you've secured him in the corner, it's about bringing in some backup to deliver the final blow, and that will be pretty easy. We need to fly this king to one of these two squares so that we can support the queen coming to b7 to deliver the mate. How you get there is up to you, but I like to choose the fastest path. There's no need to waste time, so we probably go this way, probably the simplest. Alternatively, we can go here and then follow the diagonal. Generally, you travel the diagonal. It saves you time. It's the most efficient way to do things. Let's get involved. This is already mate. So let's go. We'll go one step closer with the king. Shows it doesn't really matter which way we go about doing things. And now you can see the queen straight in front of the opposition king. We've chatted about this before. The king is defending the queen. All of these surrounding squares are covered. The king is in check. He cannot escape the check. He has been checkmated. Okay, guys, just to do a quick recap. First and foremost, the double attack, very, very important here. Okay, use the double attack. It's an effective weapon to use in not only end-game scenarios, but you can also use it opening and middle game. Attacking two pieces at the same time, and generally that means they can only save one of them, which means we win the other one. We want to be greedy in chess, and we want to take as many of their pieces as we can. All right, if we do that using the double attack, we'll gobble up some pawns and it'll make our lives very, very easy. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are practicing hard, and I hope you guys are using your time wisely. Stay warm, look after yourselves, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.